Do I know who he is? Yeah, he's an old guy who comes to the theater and very quiet and he's like, oh, and he sees everything.
It's probably one of the first customers I met.
And how often do you see Walter?
Oh, at least once a week.
Like every week.
I see him every time I'm here, just 3 or 4 times a week. Here he's around 6 or 7 maybe, probably every day.
How did I meet Walter? Well, he was just another guest at the cinema. Just walked in one day, and then the next day, and then the day after that.
I can't actually place a moment where I first met him, but I have memories of him going back at least 5 to 10 years.
For me, Walter's always really been there. Like, he's always been a presence at the theater. I would say, I work twice a week, and I see him at least once a week.
I want to say Walter comes into the theater about a third of my shifts. He is here all the time. He sees the same movies constantly.
Where is Walter from?
Walter's...
Because he has a bit of an accent, I just assumed he was from the old country, but I think he's from New York.
I thought he was Jewish, but apparently he's just from Brooklyn, and that's the way he is.
I know he's Armenian.
That's a hard one because he has a bit of an accent, and from what I understand, he's from Armenia, but I think he grew up in the countryside in California, because he always talks about how much he misses the life and how sweet the honey was.
Why do you think Walter comes to the theater?
I'm not sure if he just really loves movies or if he just really loves talking to us.
We talk about the movies we're watching, or he's watching, the movies he's seen when he was younger, just how they make him feel about life in general.
And we get into a conversation about the movies that are playing, and then all of a sudden he starts talking about bird watching and how much he loves birds. And we spent the next 20 or 30 minutes or so just Googling different birds and looking at how they looked. And it was the most bizarre conversation ever.
I think he was telling me he likes birds. We talked about birds a couple of times.
We would talk about stuff that I would never even think of ordinarily. Like, we would talk about like what bottled water is healthiest.
Perfect. Let's cut this.
Can I tell you a weird story?
About Walter?
About Walter? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I went to art school. Walter knows that. He knows that I, studied sculpture, and he asked me to sculpt his gravestone, like really early on in our sort of relationship. He said, "Oh, well, I'll buy the granite, just." I can't do that. I told him, that's really weird. Yeah, he brings up a lot of weird stuff like that.
Just weird because I've never had that kind of interaction with any other customer before. And it's just weird how somebody who I would have never met before, one, because a completely different age group, and two, just somebody who I wouldn't have shared any interests with. Every time he came, we would talk a little bit more.
But it came to a time when he would take me aside and the conversations would lead into more deeper topics. And that's when he would mention like his long lost girlfriend.
I do know that he's a big romantic, super sappy sweetheart. I know he had a girlfriend and she passed away at some point, and he told me he still dreams about her, which is really sweet.
It was really random. I was just talking to him one day and he said, I produced a CD. I really want you to listen to it. So he said, come with me, and I had a bit of time, and he said, just listen to this. And we sat in his car, and we listened to this beautiful voice. And he said that it reminded him so much of his parents and of his mom, and how whenever he listened to it, to him it felt like they were there saying that they're fine and everything was okay. From what I understand, Walter has no family left, So I think for him, just to keep his, social life going, that is, to him, that means coming to theaters and making connections with the staff.
I guess I'm one of the only people he really talks to. I mean, he comes here almost every day. He'll see a movie several times a day. So the people here are like his friends, I guess.
I mean, he never had kids. He never had a wife or anything. And I feel like he just loves people too much to just spend his time alone at home.
What do you and Walter usually talk about?
We talk about movies. Walter's a bit of a romantic, so he likes movies like La La Land.
So were you here to experience when Walter was super into La La Land?
You know what the count is so far? 15 times watching it?
You count.
Yeah. I think last time I counted it was about 12, and I think I've seen it about twice in 14, 15 maybe. I remember at one point, he was at like 15 or something, 15 times watching it. And I was curious. I was like, Walter, what? Like, I get that it's a good movie, but like, why have you come to see it so many times?
So Walter came in, why?
So he came in because he wanted to see La La Land, but we weren't showing it. So he brought in his laptop, and he's now sitting on his laptop watching La La Land in the lobby.
What are we watching? We're watching La La Land.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Like, literally, there was like a running joke among all the staff, or at least all the managers, about how many times he's come to see it, and we would all keep track.
It was a time when you would see him not just once a day, but more than once a day. He would come for a show and then immediately see the show after it.
And I was like, I genuinely want to know, like, why you've come to see this movie so many times. And it was actually a really surprising answer. Like, it's something I wouldn't have expected Walter to say. So when he was younger, there was this girl he knew, like from a very young age, and he was telling me about how she was his first love and his only love. And he told me how they fell in love with like dance together and stuff, and like music, and then in university, I think, I'm not sure how it happened, but she passed away. And he told me, and I was curious, I was like, how does this have anything to do with the movie? And he told me, he was like, the relationship between the two characters in the movie reminds me exactly of how my life was with her.
Does Walter ever come with anyone to the theater?
Never, never. I have never, nobody has ever seen Walter come to the theater with anybody.
Does Walter ever come with anyone to the theater?
He's always alone.
How did you discover the theater, the movie theater?
This theater, it reminds me old days, 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm an old-fashioned, I enjoy this theater, really. I don't like the other new ones. I love this theater, so I always come here. The chairs, the sitting, the atmosphere, especially people here, the workers, it's beautiful. I love it. Now I know lots of guys in here, like Peter, Otelia, and some other ones, Phil. All of them. I love them really. They're my grandchildren. I look at them. I'm not kidding. They're so kind, nice to me, and I enjoy talking to them. I always enjoy talking to younger people. Yeah, and I try to give my experience, my advices to them.
Where are you from and where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Fresno, California, in a farm.
You're born in a farm?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was beautiful. The best of my time was in the farm with my dad and mom. when I finished my university, my dad was 96, so he passed away. And then after a year, my mom passed away. She was close to 92 something. And so I was broken heart. My sisters were gone, they were married, so I was alone. And I decided to sell the farm and see what I'm gonna do. So I said, I'm gonna go to Canada, visit Canada, because it's close, you know. And I came here, and with my qualification, I got a job with the government. So I stayed. I guess Canada is like honey, you know. Once you come, you see that honey, you stay.
Do you ever wish someone came with you to the movies? Because you always come alone.
Yeah. Well, I'm alone, I guess. Yeah, if somebody wants to come, I don't mind if they want to come. But I enjoy it. I've lived this life for a long time, so I'm used to it, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But if somebody comes with me, I don't mind, you know.
Otelia said you had a girlfriend from way back that you told her
Oh,
about.
that was in the school I had.
Do you want to tell us
Well,
about
that
it?
is a very sad story, you know. You don't want to hear it, you know. Actually, in high school one time, I was sitting under the tree and I was reading a book. And she came and says, "Can I sit in here?" I said, "Sure." So she sat beside me and said, "What are you reading?" I said, "Love story." She says, can I, when you finish, can I take and read it? I said, "Sure, I'll just give it to you. I don't need it anymore because I finished it." So I gave it to her, you know, she took it. And I didn't know that since kindergarten, we were always together, you know, friends, all that. She was in love with me, I didn't know. She was very beautiful. My mother loved her, yeah. She was very nice, very kind. And one day, it's a long story, she had a car accident and she passed away. And that hurts me very much, you know. She always says she always wanted to talk to me before high school, but she didn't want to hurt my feelings. It's amazing, you know. I never forget her the rest of my life. And that's a sad story.
When you're in the room for every night at 7, every time the same thing happens, I fall once again in love, but only with you.
The stories he's told me have definitely changed my perspective on things, like on life. It's just, I feel bad, like he's so caught up in the past with this girl that he grew up with, and that was when he was like 20 something, and now he's 92 and he still can't get over this girl how many years later.